Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Happy Saturday, happy weekend. I hope you guys had a great week. We did. And in today's video, we're going to address these all-time highs. The last video that I made, I said that the market was going to be very bullish. We were taking a look at the large tech stocks to see that a lot of them had a lot of room to the upside. And that worked out really, really well. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at what the next steps are for the market. We're going to continue looking at the large tech stocks, the SP500, movers in the market that cause moves in the market. We're also going to be taking a look at the VIX. We're going to be taking a look at crude oil, crypto, and we're also going to be talking about the conflict in the Middle East, because I also want to talk about that entire issue as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. This is going to be very fun, and I'm going to be more active and more aggressive in posting more, and I really want to show as much value to everyone that's supported for as long as you guys have, and that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the year at least, because there's a lot of good that's coming in my life, and I just want to share and really explain and give as much value and knowledge as I possibly can. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. All right, so number one, I was explaining how the 60-50 level on the ES, this is a daily chart, was very important. Very major level of support and resistance, as you can see in the past, and then now it was acting as resistance. Once we got a major bounce above, that really led to extreme strength. And what I was saying specifically, if you guys remember one of my last videos, I was saying that I wanted two closes above this level. When there is a major level of support and resistance, to get a continuation in that direction, what you want to see is two closes above that level. And once we got those two closes on the 23rd and the 24th of June, it was almost a clear-cut guarantee that we were going to continue up. Regardless of whether we pulled back, the fact that we got those two closes really increases the chance of a continued move, okay? That's what currently ended up happening. And we're currently long. We are still long from down here. We are in June, we're in July, we're in September calls, and they are up huge, okay? Because this was an amazing buying opportunity down here. Now that we are overextended to the upside, by all means, does this now become the time where you want to go short? No. Does this become the time where you want to go long? Absolutely not. What I'm waiting for, what I would rather do for a new trade, right? Because we're already comfortable. We're already long. We're long and strong and blah, blah, blah. Everything's great. But if you have not taken any trade and you want to start taking a trade in this market environment that is very overextended, what you want to do is you want to wait for pullbacks to levels of support, or you're going to look for stocks, these large tech stocks that are setting up for bullish setups. Okay, so we're going to be going over these bullish setups that a lot of these tech stocks are starting to show and that have started to rip up. But in general, being short is not something that I really want to do. These two things, where I would rather go long at support or when I would rather wait for bullish setups, is something that I would do instead. Okay, so currently this is really skyrocketing. We have trendline support close to 62.70, 60.30, and this coincides with a trend line from down below in August. And as you can see, it had multiple touches from October 2023. So this trend line that we're currently looking at and we're going to be monitoring for an upside target is a uptrend line that we have from October 2023. As you can see, you got uptrend, great move to the upside, perfect touch, perfect wick to this downside here in August of 2024. Awesome, uptrend, great, spectacular. And then just look at how I understand trend lines and everything. You guys, some people might not believe it, right? But if you're watching these channels, if we're watching this channel, right, you already understand that technical analysis works. What I really want to show you guys is how beautiful of a touch and trend line, just how beautiful this worked out. Us breaking down below here, almost a perfect opportunity to be bearish, because what did we end up doing? We got a close below, right? Great. We got some touches here. Great. But then on this March 24th candle right here, this candle right here, what ended up happening? We tried to break above and then just collapsed, right? So this was already the first signs of a major reversal and failure to remain above this trend line. All throughout for the entire year, from October to here, we were in an uptrend. We made new highs and we broke below a major uptrend level. And then from here, right, what ended up happening? We saw a major red candle, great. And then the next day, we had an opportunity to try to break back above. In this green candle here, we had an opportunity to break back above. Did we break back above? No, it gave another perfect opportunity to lean short once more. And then that's when the capitulation started. We got a bit of a bounce, retested the 618% fib from here. And then that, even a bigger drop. And this is essentially when we went long. Right here is where we ended up going long. And it worked out perfectly. And now we're up here. So now we are coming back to that same trend line that we initially broke down below. Instead, we are inching up to the trend line, and we're about to have it test as resistance, in my opinion. So this is why this trend line is so important, because it's been prevalent for the past 2 years. This level, once again, is around the 62, 60, 6270, 6300 level. By the time we get here, it might be in the next week. You know, the next week or two, it's not a guarantee that we're going to continue being bullish, right? We might get a pullback. We might chop around, we might bounce, etc., etc. But in my opinion, over the next month or 2 months, every dip is a buying opportunity. Every single dip in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, all of these dips are buying opportunities. Once you start seeing weakness and we start breaking down below support, that is not, I cannot stress this enough. When you see this much buying pressure in the overall market, when you see this much buying pressure in the large tech stocks, in the overall market as a whole, you do not try to lean short. They will paint a very bearish picture in anticipation, in hopes that people will try to short the whole. Do not fall for shorting the whole. Do not try to go short the whole. You will just be liquidity. So you will only be a means of getting whiplashed. And do not lean short, because what's going to end up happening is, in my opinion, I am very, very, very convinced that the next few months will be very bullish. Do not start leaning bearish at levels of resistance. Even if the opportunity is really, really good, great. I'm going to share the trades that I do take of where I do want to go short. But the safest trades are going to be leaning long. Once you start breaking below support, in my opinion, it's very difficult to start leaning short. It might work maybe for a couple of moves, for a couple of points, but these are not sustainable moves to the downside. And you guys can clip this, you guys can take this to the bank. I am telling you guys, these moves to the downside will not be sustainable. We should be getting dip buying opportunities, and new highs should be created regardless in the next few months, heading into the end of summer, heading into September. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. I will be here every day updating you guys with things. We might be looking at, oh wow, okay, wow, we just broke 6100, we just broke 6150, blah 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 blah. Sure, we can go short for short, like very short term. But the safest trade, please understand this, drill it into your minds. The safest trade is going to be leaning long. Okay, so just keep that in mind. These are the targets to the upside for the ES. Now, this is a chart of the NASDAQ, okay? So what we're seeing here, two things, two very, very important things. Number one, we are at a fib, we closed above a fib extension level. So a fib that I created back in November 2024 to these highs here, right? We are at a fib extension level now at these levels. And this is very, very strong. The fact that we are now above this 22,569 level, which is the 2.618% fib. And this level of support is very, very important. Okay. To really, really make it even cleaner is what we could do is I'm just going to make it cleaner here. So what I ended up doing is I adjusted the fib level from these lows here to the highs over here on November 11th. And the fib extension level shows an even better level of support here. And, this just makes it an even more possibility that we are going to see 23,482 in the coming weeks on the NASDAQ. This strength is not to be messed with for multiple reasons. Number one, because we found strength above the 22,350, and above the 22,500 levels, right? We broke above very, very major levels of resistance. Those levels of resistance are not going to act as support, but we have a clear-cut target to the upside. There's a lot more room to the upside. We just saw that the S&P 500 has more room to the upside in terms of a trend line, in terms of the strength that we're also going to see in the large tech stocks, but also the NASDAQ has a target to the upside in terms of a fib extension level. Those are two reasons. Number three, we're seeing massive buying in the institutional space. Institutions are buying like crazy. And number four, we are hugging the upper level of the Bollinger Band. Now, the Bollinger Band is very, very important to monitor because it shows that there's a lot of strength, right? We are going to show a lot of strength when we are hugging the upper level of the Bollinger Band. Generally, monitoring the Bollinger Band is very important because we should be trading within the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band shows overextension to the upside or the downside algorithmically. So when we're trading to the upside of the Bollinger Band, generally, we should be returning back inside. When we're trading outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band, generally, we should be bouncing and going back inside the Bollinger Band. The issue with trying to short the upper band is that, number one, the upper band is skyrocketing up. It's in a straight line up. So to get very overextended to the upside, the NASDAQ needs to be extremely skyrocketing up. The odds of that happening is very, very slim. So the odds of us continuing to rise up increases. Okay? So, for example, right? I just want to give you guys like a nice little explanation here. The Bollinger Band flat like this. This shows that the market should be holding this level of support, essentially. It shows that if the NASDAQ gets a strong move to the downside, we're going to bounce because the Bollinger Band is flat. Okay? If the Bollinger Band was like moving like this, if the lower level of the Bollinger Band was moving up, right? And the NASDAQ got a clean, huge drop to the downside, leaning long is much safer. Instead, what we're seeing is the upper level of the Bollinger Band is skyrocketing up. So trying to short strength is never as safe as trying to go long into weakness. Because what causes the strength in the market? What is the main factor that causes strength in the market? Institutions. Where do institutions want to go long? They want to go long at levels of support. Institutions will also try not to go short into extreme strength. They would rather pile into longs and look for pullbacks to continue to go long at. Okay, so all of these long opportunities, all of these dips in the next few weeks are going to be long opportunities. I'm very, very convinced And no matter how overextended we look, there's always more room to go. When there's a lot of strength in the market, it is not the time to be contrarian. Okay? It is not the time to be contrarian when there's a lot of strength in the market. What you want to do is you want to play alongside the strength. You want to enjoy the strength. You want to reap the rewards and reap the benefits. It's not always safe to just, okay, we should be going down today. We should be going long tomorrow. It complicates things. The next few weeks, every dip, buy into a longer term contract for 3 to 4 months out. Enjoy your life. Okay? That's what I said down here. That's what I said as the market fell. I said, look, go long. Go long, go long, go long. We went long on April 7th. We went long on April 7th down here on this candle right here. And it worked out beautifully, phenomenally. And I said to just go long for a few months out and enjoy your life. That's exactly what ended up happening. And I'm saying, not as aggressively, but I'm saying the same concept over here. Because this is not the time to go short. Things are just starting to ramp up, in my opinion. And we have this target up here, 23,500. If you want to go short, this is where I think a lot of funds and institutions are going to start to take profit. It coincides a bit with where we would end up touching on the 6,300, 6,400 level on the ES. That's what I end up thinking should end up happening on the overall market. And one of the main reasons why I think there's so much room to the upside is that there's just so much room to the upside on the large tech stocks. The large tech stocks are a determining factor of how much room there is to go in the market. In the last video, I was showing Amazon. Let's start it off with Amazon. I was showing how Amazon was creating a bull flag. Before this candle even appeared, it was this red candle. I was showing how Amazon setting up beautifully. This was a massive, beautiful bull flag that was being formed. Clear cut. And I gave the level to the upside that we should touch. And that's exactly what ended up happening. I said we would touch 223 and then eventually 230. I drew it out here. Perfectly drew it out. And we're going to end up, just continue rising. Is because these large tech stocks have so much room to go. We have not even reached all-time highs yet on these large tech stocks. So because these large tech stocks have more room to go, inevitably these are going to cause more upside in the indexes themselves, in the NASDAQ and in the SP500, because these are the Magnificent Seven. These are the largest stakeholders in these ETFs. Okay, so Amazon, clear-cut strength. If we hold 220, we're going to see 230. Very, very simple. I don't want to become extremely bearish. Yes, Amazon shot up above the Bollinger Band here. You can see that there's clearly, we got $1.50 into the Bollinger Band to the upside. Getting a bit overextended, but now the Bollinger Band is starting to skyrocket up as well. A lot more room to the upside. We might get pullbacks. Everything is bullish. All of this whole setup on Amazon, clear-cut bullish. Okay? Apple. Apple has a lot of room to the upside. Once Apple starts going, once Apple starts shooting up above 205, 208, 210, nothing's going to stop it. And it's just setting up. It's consolidating. It's just, this is setting up for a really, really interesting move on Apple. And once we get a move to the upside on Apple, this is just it's gonna be really, really interesting. So I really want you guys to understand, a lot of these stocks are starting to show bullish formations. The losers start to bounce when the winners consolidate. We've seen winners in the market. We've been seeing Meta, Netflix, NVDA, and AMD be winners in the market. Once those winners start to consolidate a bit, money is going to ebb and flow out of the winners into the losers. That's a big reason why Amazon started to do well. Once Apple starts to do well, there's a lot of upside room on Apple. Because there's a lot of upside room on Apple, there's going to be a lot of upside room on the S&P and the NASDAQ. Okay? Clear-cut Apple. Tesla. Tesla is the same concept. Obviously, Tesla and Apple move pretty similarly sometimes. You could see that Tesla has major resistance at 325. It is holding 310. And it is, at a level of support. But overall, this is not when I would want to start going short on Tesla. Even though Tesla is not as strong looking as the other two stocks that we just looked at. In my opinion, we could see 300, even 280 on Tesla. But if Tesla starts to pull back a bit, all of these are still going to be good buying opportunities. But to really be honest, Tesla does not look as bullish as Amazon and Apple. Okay? NVIDIA. When NVIDIA is doing this, when NVIDIA is moving like this, does it make sense to be bearish on the market? When NVIDIA is making new highs, it's gapping up. We're not even seeing major pullbacks. Is this when you really, really want to be bearish on the market? Do you really want to stand in front of a moving freight train to try to stop it with one hand? No. Grab alongside and go for the ride. That's what I think everyone should be doing with the overall market. And because we clearly see institutions are buying very, very heavily. If institutions thought that these were not good buying opportunities, retail is not pumping this. Retail is not the one moving this market. Retail is not the reason why we skyrocketed up from 145 to 158. Okay, so just to recap, I was showing how NVIDIA had major resistance here at 144. We consolidated at 144 once we got closes above. All skies to the upside. NVIDIA started to skyrocket. AMD also started to skyrocket. AMD, same concept as NVIDIA's 144. AMD started to consolidate at 129. We got a great hold of this support, skyrocketed. This is not the time, in my opinion, to start being bearish on the market because these stocks are starting to show a lot of strength. But yes, AMD, NVIDIA, you can see AMD's Bollinger Band is skyrocketing up. It is skyrocketing up. It's almost in a straight line, vertical. NVIDIA, almost vertical. But yes, we are overextended to the upside. Yes, we should be getting a pullback in the short term. I'm not saying that we shouldn't get a pullback. We should be getting some sort of a pullback in the short term. Maybe a retest to 155, 154. Sure. But to really aggressively go short, we could easily see another rip to 164, 163 without even getting a pullback. So everyone that tries to go short early here, they can get ripped. So that's why I'm saying the odds are more likely to people trying to go long, giving some time on the long opportunities instead of trying to short. So let me just give you guys an example. Say you want to go short at 155. You're like, oh, red candle, it's the close. Say it's the close, and you see this on a daily chart. Let's just do some psychology here, okay? You see a close on the daily on NVIDIA. You're seeing, wow, we have opened and closed outside of the Bollinger Band on NVIDIA. Hamid says, when you are overextended to the upside on the Bollinger Band, lean short, it should return back into the Bollinger Band. Great. So you go short, right? You go short at the close. Spectacular. What ends up happening? We gap up and we end up making new highs. So what happens to the people that try to go short here? Now they're chasing. Now, so they've covered their shorts, 100%. They've ended up covering their shorts. Or they're trying to average in. In both instances, you're screwed. Because you set yourself up trying to stand in front of a moving trade. You don't want to stand in front of a moving train. Does that make sense? You don't want to fight the strength in the market. What instead you could have done, not do anything. Wait for a pullback and go long and play alongside the momentum. Instead, you're trying to short clear-cut extreme strength, and that never works. It's not safe. It's not safe. On the ES, for example, right? Trying to go short into this strength, not safe. It was not safe. we could have continued rising. All of this strength here, trying to go short, yeah, sometimes it worked, right? But it worked better to just wait for dip buying opportunities to go long. The only time it really made sense to go short on the ES, on the market in general, was when we started to break below major levels of support. And that's my argument for why you should not even try to go short on NVIDIA here, because the same concept is going to start applying. We're going to hold the prior levels of support. We might dip back down to 148, 146. All of these are good buying opportunities. We might even see 144. These are much better buying opportunities than they are to try to go short into these levels of strength. Okay? That's my argument. I just want you guys to see the past. The past repeats itself because algorithms are the same. These algorithms are updating, right? People update these algorithms, but they're based off of the same principles and same data points, the same things in the past. They look for similar situations in the future, and decisions are made based off of those. So, AMD, NVIDIA, Google, another loser that started to skyrocket. All of these loser stocks had a lot of room to the upside. A loser started to skyrocket. Clear cut, we have room to 183. Once we break above 183, we're seeing 190 easy. 183 holds as support. Might chop around, might get a pullback. Clear cut strength. Clear cut strength on Google. Microsoft continuing to rise. Is this a market where you want to be aggressively bearish? No. Wouldn't it make sense to be aggressively bearish when Microsoft starts to show weakness below major levels of support, when the trend lines start to break? Wouldn't it make more sense to be bearish on Microsoft once we break the trend line, we get a retest of the trend line, it gets a fail, and then we could just go short along this trend line? That's what I would rather do. That's what I would rather do, honestly, because this is something that you cannot try to just outwardly short, because once we start breaking the trend line, and there are multiple trend lines that we could make here, but definitely this trying to short here for a move to the downside becomes much better than trying to short every instance of strength, because the same concept is going to apply as we just saw in NVIDIA. Clear cut. It's like, oh my god, like how many times did shorts get ripped by trying to short a top? It's like, okay, you see a triple top. Oh my god, a triple top in June. Oh, we should be falling here. We should be falling. Oh, what happens? We gap up. Oh my god, we just gapped down. We gapped up, but then we closed below the major level of support resistance. This is 3 touches. We made a red candle here below the level. Great shorting opportunity. Great shorting opportunity. What ends up happening? The next day, after a great shorting opportunity, we got another new high. Oh, this high is not going to sustain itself. Let's go short again. What happens again? We gap up. This is definitely the last time. Let's average in. Gapped up again. Oh, this is definitely not going to happen. Oh, what ends up happening? We skyrocketed again. So if every single time people were trying to short the top, shorting the strength, looking at the SP 500, the NASDAQ, looking at the other large tech stocks, NVIDIA, AMD, seeing the strength in those stocks, but still trying to go short into this strength, you're asking for your portfolios to lose. So this is not something that you want to partake in. Granted, Microsoft is starting to look like a bit really overextended. We could get a bit of a pullback on Microsoft. Sure. In the short term, sure, we could get a pullback. But I promise you guys, it makes so much more sense to wait, to not try to short the strength, and instead look for dip buying opportunities in the market. That's what I would much rather everyone do, in my opinion. And that's what I'm most likely going to be doing in the next coming weeks. I'm not going to try to call any tops until a top is really starting to form. I'm not going to try to do any of that. I have called tops, I have called bottoms before, but it's not safe. The safest trade is to dip buy, okay? Meta. Need I say more? We haven't even gotten to recent all-time highs. Meta showing extreme strength. There's still more room to the upside. Once Meta breaks to the upside, you think it's going to just stop? When there's so much more room on Apple, when Google has a lot more room to the upside, when Tesla has a lot more, when Tesla has not even started to show strength, you think Meta is going to start showing weakness? I don't think so. Clear-cut uptrend on Meta as well. Do you want to start going short when it's hugging the uptrend? So vertically as well? No, of course not. Netflix, same concept. Netflix, same freaking concept. Do you want to go short on Netflix when we're in a monster, just vertical uptrend? Is this where you want to try to short? Oh, red candle. Red candle. Oh, this is the top. Oh, I'm going to go short with the recent all-time highs as a stop loss. Oh, we gapped up. Oh, this can't sustain itself. Averaging. Oh, averaging. Oh, average. New highs. Trying to short strength is never, ever safe. Because of these large tech stocks. They will not stop for anyone. It makes a lot more sense. Every single time we see extreme weakness, I will always go long and comfortably long. Trying to short strength, not safe. Not safe at all. And of course, we have to also take a look at the IWM, the Russell 2000. When the Russell 2000 has a lot of room to the upside, it's been a clear loser. Great. It's been a very, very clear-cut loser. Spectacular. But the concept that I'm trying to show is how far away we are to the all-time highs. We're very far away from the all-time highs on Apple. We're seeing strength out of the IWM, finally. Thank God, right? We held 210. We held 210 on IWM, similar to the NVDA 144 level and AMD's 130 level. We consolidated. And then we gapped up. We started to show a lot of strength. This is not when you want to go short, in my opinion. You don't want to aggressively lean short in the market, guys, because number one, the XLF, the financial sector is very, very strong. You can see new highs on the financial sector. A lot of financial stocks move the IWM. The industrial sector, new highs on the industrial sector. This is not when you want to start going short. When there's new highs, you don't want to go short. It's very, very difficult. You become a contrarian, and then every new high that ends up happening, you just start averaging it, and then by the time it is time to go short, you close your shorts and you try to go long, and then that's how they get you. That's how they get you, and then that's when the market falls. Just be patient. Just be patient, in my opinion. Just be patient. This is not the time to try to start going short. Even if we get some sort of weakness this week, next week, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will get some sort of weakness in the next 2 weeks. That's not what I'm saying. Once again, every dip is a buying opportunity. Okay? And what we saw, I was even mentioning coin. Coin was going to be a huge mover. And I mentioned coin would be a monster mover. What ended up happening on coin? Massive move to the upside. Because we were looking for bullish setups that had more room to the upside. Coin was a monster bullish setup. Lots of more room to the upside. And it worked out really, really well. To really, really drill it home. We have to take a look at the VIX. Because the VIX, there are two major levels on the VIX that will determine whether the market is bullish or bearish. Okay? Number one, the $17 level on the VIX. If we are trading below $17 on the VIX, the market is bullish. Period, point blank. The market is bullish if we're trading below $17. Because the VIX has an inverse relationship to the market. If the VIX is falling or showing weakness, the market should be rising and showing strength. So what we're seeing is the VIX is falling and showing weakness, which is why the market is skyrocketing. Okay, so as we can see, the VIX is showing a lot of weakness. We're failing to break above 17. If we do not break above 17, the market is going to continue rising, or it's going to be neutral to bullish. If the market breaks above 20, then it starts to become a bit more interesting and a bit easier to be bearish on the market. So that's what we're currently looking at on the VIX. And we've always monitored the VIX. Really, really beautiful situation on the VIX. Working out spectacularly. And I think putting all of these things together, the large tech stocks, the SP 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell, the VIX, all of these things together really helps paint a much better and a better understanding of the overall market. And I think that's what's currently happening. And that's what I really like to do. I really like to put all of the data points together to get the best possible trade to take. Our long opportunities are up huge. Our long plays are up huge. Our long swings are up huge. In a way where everyone wanted to be bearish, we are reaping the rewards of just holding and just comfortably just playing alongside the strength. So just please, if you don't have a long or if you don't have a short, do not try to go short. Wait for long opportunities down at levels of support into weakness and just lean long. Please. Okay? Do not try to catch any tops. If you miss a top, oh well. You're not going to time it perfectly. Okay? And then by the time it does happen, you're not going to be in the short. So I would rather people not even try to go short because it's not safe. Wait for long opportunities. If you've been watching this for 37 minutes, listen to me, please. Please listen to me. I would tell you, oh, great opportunity to go short. Not there yet. Not there yet, and I don't think it's going to end up happening in the next 2 months because there is so much strength and upside potential in these large tech stocks, and the institutions are buying them up like it's like hotcakes. Okay, so I hope you guys really listen to me. Okay, please. Next, let's take a look at crypto. Okay, number one, Bitcoin. Bitcoin. How much room does Bitcoin have to the upside? We have been holding Bitcoin's 105,000 level very well. This is setting up for another nice move to the upside. What does this look like? You guessed it, a bull flag. Sure, we could get a pullback. Great. But overall, where are we going to end up heading? New highs, 120. As Bitcoin hits 120, as we have these upside targets on Bitcoin, where do you think the rest of the market is going to go? What moves Bitcoin? Other altcoins? And also the overall market. Well, what the hell did we just look at for the last 35 minutes? There's a lot of upside potential in the overall market. What we haven't done is we haven't looked at how much upside potential there is in Solana. Okay? Solana has a lot of upside potential. Solana, in terms of technology, is so much better than Ethereum. And the fact that Solana has so much more room to the upside is going to be very important for Bitcoin. Okay? So first, let's take a look at Ethereum. Ethereum, clear-cut weakness. Not as good as Solana, in my opinion. Not great, not good compared to Solana. How much percentage do we have to the upside for a touch of all-time highs? The owner of Ethereum is really weird. He took a picture with a woman, and he had a boner. He couldn't control himself. It's really weird guy. The owner of Ethereum is really weird. Not someone that I would want to run or manage an investment. Okay? But institutions and everyone took Ethereum as the second tier to Bitcoin. Great. Even though gas fees are very through the roof and high, to even transfer Ethereum to buy any sort of artwork or any sort of token, you got to pay like $50, $10. The gas fees are crazy on Ethereum. It takes long. Ethereum is just not as good technologically. But technically, all of these funds and everyone are going to look, oh my God, wow, we're 70% away from upside. If I just go long on Ethereum at 2,200 or 2,300, wow, okay, I could double my money as we get, I could see a 50% return. I could see a 40% return. That's what people are going to be thinking. So you just have to follow the money. At this point, you just have to follow the money. Bitcoin looks strong. What ended up also happening is you could see where we are in terms of all the fib levels and where we failed, right? From the all-time highs to the most recent lows. We failed at the 50% fib, but now we're holding above the 38.2% fib on Ethereum. It's tough to be bearish. It's tough to be bearish. All of crypto in general are just good dip buying opportunities. I am a Bitcoin crypto fanatic. Always look for buying opportunities in crypto. Okay? But to really drive it home, Solana is a beautiful psychopath. So if we're looking from the most recent highs to the most recent lows, Solana is only holding the 23.6% fib. This is such an amazing, juicy buying opportunity. This is an amazing, amazing buying opportunity on Solana, guys. You cannot let this pass you by, because what is happening, we are showing strength in the overall market. We're showing strength out of Bitcoin. We're showing strength on Solana here as well. Beautiful situation here on Solana. Do not let this pass you by, guys. I can't even express to you how bullish this is. I cannot even express to you how beautiful of a opportunity this is. To go long here for a retest of the all-time highs, that is 100% return. You don't think people are looking at these opportunities and seeing, wow, this becomes an amazing opportunity to go long. This becomes an amazing opportunity for a 50% return. Where would a 50% return be from this level if you were to buy? 50% brings us to 220, 225. You don't think Solana could hit 225 in the next few months? While the market is making new highs, while Bitcoin breaks above 110, 115, you don't think Solana is going to end up breaking above 220? There's cycles. There's cycles in these coins. As Bitcoin shows strength, it is great that Solana and Ethereum are bottoming out and showing some strength as well. As the overall market shows strength, it's great that Bitcoin is showing strength. Solana, this is not a bearish situation. This is a bull flag into a level of support at the 22.6% fib, setting up for a monster move to the upside, in my opinion. You cannot deny this. This is a spectacular situation. This is a beautiful setup. Beautiful setup, okay? And I just really, really want you guys to understand that. I can't stress it. This is just a beautiful setup. Gold, I usually don't like talking about gold, but this is a very major sort of trend line break that we're seeing currently on gold. What I did was I created a trend line from back in December of 2024. You could see multiple touches here, right? All throughout here, we were hugging on this trend line. We touched it perfectly down here in February of 2025, recently. We touched it perfectly again here in April of 2025. We touched it perfectly again here in May. And now we have closed comfortably below it. Similar sort of situation as we saw with the SP 500, where it became a good opportunity to go short. So this becomes a bit interesting to try to go long on gold here, because you could clearly see this is showing weakness. We have now broken below a major uptrend level on gold. Gold is not showing a lot of strength here. This becomes a really solid just level to go short at with this trend line as an invalidation. And you could end up just continuing to be short as long as this trend line does not break, or you could go short with 33.30 as a stop loss level. And this has room to the downside. Gold does not look great. Okay, so this is clearly weak on gold. Equities are clearly showing strength. Why would people want to invest in gold when equities and stocks are giving a much better, higher percentage return? When you could just throw money into NVDA and it skyrockets. When you just throw money at AMD, crypto, all of these other things, and they are just skyrocketing. Why would you want to invest in gold? That's what investors are looking at currently. That's why gold is showing weakness. Keep that in mind. Do not be aggressively long gold right now, as long as gold is trading below this trend line. And we really would want to see gold, if you're a bull, break back above 33.40 level for a continued move to the upside. Okay, hope that makes sense. Now, with that being said, last but not least, we could take a look at the Chinese markets. You know, the Chinese markets are always good to look at, depending on how overextended the Hang Seng Index is to the upside or the downside. We could take a look at Baba, Baidu, JD. We've caught big moves out of those as well. And clearly, you know, the Hang Seng is not really showing that much. Baba is also not showing that much. Baidu, same concept. And JD.com is also not showing that much. Showing some basing out, showing some support, but not like screaming any bullishness. So, you know, with that said, all of these crypto coins bottoming out. Link, Litecoin, all bottoming out, showing bouncing opportunities in these crypto coins as crypto is starting to be bullish. As you can see with Litecoin starting to show some bullishness and some light. Very tough to be bearish on crypto. Very tough to be bearish on Bitcoin, Solana, Link. It's tough. Okay, so I hope this makes sense to you guys. All right. We haven't even mentioned seasonality. We haven't even looked at the seasonality chart for the S&P 500. This is the last 20 years of the S&P 500. This is a seasonality chart showing what generally happens each month. July. Does July look like a bearish month? We can clearly see July is not a very bearish month, guys. So clearly, just the seasonality wise, these next few weeks, yeah, we might get a pullback, but all of these are good dip buying opportunities, in my opinion. With that being said, I hope I did a good explanation of what I think is going to end up happening, why I think the overall market moves the way it does, what the next steps were for crypto, for everything as well. But now I really want to get into some fun. All right, let's talk about the Middle East and war and everything that's happening internationally. Okay, so obviously we know that Iran and Israel had a war. Israel preemptively attacked Iran after 60 days of the United States and Iran having peace talks, where Iran wanted to basically make a deal in terms of enriching their uranium for the country's benefit. Top CIA assets officials, the United States stated that Iran's weapons-grade nuclear weapons would not be correct and ready for years. The United States intel was saying this. Trump's administration, the CIA, they were saying, the IAEA was saying that Iran was years away from a nuclear weapon. Israel attacked Iran. The first attack, Israel attacked Iran 2 weeks ago. Without any provocation from Iran, Iran was not attacking Israel. Iran instead had its proxies in Yemen and Lebanon and Syria, essentially attacking Israel. But there was essentially a cutoff of the strength that Iran had in Syria. There was a cutoff in the strength that Iran had in Lebanon. A lot of the proxies in the Middle East were taken out. Now, there was no direct attack between Israel and Iran until 2 weeks ago when Israel attacked Iran. The United States was in talks with Iran to make sure that there would be peace, that Iran would not be trying to enrich their uranium. Israel attacked instead. Okay, so now let's figure out what the next steps are. Okay, so number one, Iran was doing a lot of damage to Tel Aviv and Haifa. It got to a point where Israel did not even want. Israel stopped anyone from even filming where and how much damage was being caused in Israel, because they did not want to show the extent of the damage that Iran was doing to Israel. And it made sense because if every time Israel, if people were allowed to show where certain bombs were dropped in Israel, obviously Iran would also be looking at that, and Iran would be able to update and learn from what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong. So obviously it makes sense that Israel sort of cut off any sort of communication to the outside world in terms of what they were being attacked and how they were being attacked. Trump actually said that Iran was really pummeling Israel. So this was a good situation for both countries because Iran attacked Israel. The United States also, as we know, the United States attacked a nuclear facility in Iran called Fordow. Fordow is a massive mountain nuclear facility with 200 meters down below of that mountain where Iran was enriching uranium. The United States attacked that facility. So there's essentially three things at play here. Israel wants to destroy Iran. Makes sense because Iran has been, through the Shia militias, has been trying to destroy Israel. Okay, makes sense. Iran supports the Houthis in Yemen. It supported the militias in Iraq. It supported Assad's regime in Syria, and it supported the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah in Lebanon, decapitated, essentially. Assad in Syria, decapitated within 2 weeks, and Assad fled to Russia. The Houthis in Yemen, still somewhat relevant, not as relevant compared to Iran. So it cut off major supplies to Hezbollah. Israel cut off major supplies to Hezbollah by retaking Syria, essentially, by changing the regime in Syria, by instituting an ex-ISIS member. An ex-ISIS member is the leader of Syria currently. The United States, Israel, very happy about that because it's not because this person is not a ally to Iran, so it makes sense. All right. From an Israeli standpoint, Israel cut off the different branches. The only thing left was the root. The root cause is Iran. So started to attack Iran. Makes sense. Now, what Israel also understands is that Israel is very, very important to the United States in the Middle East because Israel is essentially in charge of the area, essentially, with the United States as a backup. If the United States was not supporting Israel, if the United States was not paying Egypt and Jordan and having good relationships with Saudi Arabia, and if the United States did not install puppet leaders in a lot of these countries, for example, the United States gives aid purely so that Egypt and Jordan play nice with Israel. If the United States was not doing that, Israel would be gone within a week or two because Israel is just not equipped to handle the firepower of these countries nearby without Western support, which is why France, Britain, and the United States take a heavily vested interest in Israel. The reason why Israel is very, very important is because France, Britain, and the United States have massive economic investment in these countries. And for example, Saudi Arabia cannot defend itself. A lot of these Gulf countries cannot defend themselves. What the United States does in response is, hey guys, we'll defend you guys. We'll put military bases in your countries. What you need to do is give us a certain percentage of the oil that is inbound that comes out of your countries. This is a sort of win-win for the people in charge. There's just so much oil being made in these countries, and it's such a good, from a colonization perspective, you don't want leaders that are pan-Arab. You don't want leaders that have any sort of real you really don't want leaders if you're trying to colonize a country, right? Because this entire region is all colonized. All of Africa is essentially all colonized. You don't want leaders that have self-respect. Whether the self-respect is for or against America, I'm not talking about that. I'm speaking neutrally from an outside perspective. The leaders of these countries do not have any self-respect, because you can make that argument that so I'm not Arab, right? But if another Arab country in Palestine, for example, was being decimated, if you see what's going on in Palestine right now, all of the citizens in this entire region, almost every citizen in this entire region, I would argue, is completely against what Israel is doing to Palestine. But because the leaders of these countries are so just controlled, essentially, I would recommend you guys read Noam Chomsky's. I would recommend you guys read Noam Chomsky. I would recommend you guys read Economic Hitman. But these are Economic Hitman by what's his name? John Perkins. I would recommend you guys read these books, because these are very, very important books to make you guys understand how regime change, how corporate change occurs on a smaller level, and how that could be applied to larger international levels. For example, we've done this in South America, we've done this in Africa, we've done this in Indonesia, Thailand, we've done this all around the world. So the Middle East, a hotbed of all of the oil in the world, when there's tens of trillions of dollars at stake, why would you want to have leaders that are against you? From a Western perspective, right? From the United States, from Britain, from a French perspective, why the hell would you want leaders that will stand up for themselves? That's the last thing you would want. So that's why all of the leaders that ever stood up for themselves and their people and didn't want any Western, that didn't want any sort of Western influence on their country, were killed. Their families were killed. Their entire bloodline was essentially killed. Libya, the president of Libya, right? Gaddafi. He wanted to nationalize oil. He wanted to create essentially he wanted to cultivate a unity between all of these Arab countries in Africa. What did they do to Libya in 2012? They destroyed Libya. A guy with a Yankees hat was the one who, on camera in 2012, 2011, whatever that happened, killed Gaddafi. So obviously, if I was the United States, I would kill him too, right? So it makes sense. But what's currently going on is, because, now to wrap it up, because the United States, Britain, and France really need Israel here, because it is an entire country. These aren't just bases, right? Israel is basically the largest base for the United States in the Middle East. Now, what makes it even more complicated is that the amount of oil that we are taking from this region, it should permeate in our daily lives. The amount of oil that we have taken out of Iraq, Syria, that we have in terms of partnerships with Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, we should see some sort of benefit in our day-to-day lives. And we are not seeing that. We still have to pay for healthcare. We have to pay for education. We have terrible healthcare. There's still homelessness. The infrastructure in our countries are very, very bad. The infrastructure in our cities is very, very bad. Very dirty. It's not conducive with the amount of resources that we are taking from Africa and the Middle East. So what does that tell you? The wealth that we are taking from these countries are not going to the people. The wealth that we are taking from these countries by colonizing them, by putting puppet governments, by instilling sanctions and forcing bad trade deals with these countries, we're not seeing the reward of these things. So what we end up doing is we use our tax dollars to invest in the decimation of these countries that we don't even see the reward for. It would make sense if after the Iraq War, after Afghanistan, after all of the money that we essentially took from these countries, after all the money that we took from Africa, that we would see some sort of benefit in our lives, that we would see some sort of infrastructural change. Quality of life should have increased in the United States, but we have not seen that. So what does that say? Money is going to the top people at the top. Okay? Money is just going to the people at the top. Unfortunately, what we also end up seeing is that Israel has a very large vested interest in just the government in general. So not only do we not really get the benefit of it, the benefit is essentially going to people that support Israel and the Israeli lobby, AIPAC. AIPAC, our congressmen, our presidents, our mayors. I'm sure everyone saw the New York mayor and how the debate with the New York mayor, how everyone that was on the panel was like, oh, the first place I'm going to visit is Israel. The Democratic primary, the winner of the Democratic primary, whatever his name is, Zambani, he said, I'm not going to go to Israel. I'm just going to stay in New York. Any of the all of the anti-Semitic whatever attacks and all the Jewish people, any sort of problems that Jewish people have, I'm going to go to them in New York. I'm going to stay in New York and I'm going to address their problems in New York instead of going to Israel. Every other candidate was, I'm going to make my first trip to Israel. I'm going to go my fourth time to Israel. What does Israel have to do with the United States? It's because Israel heavily funds these people's campaigns. They take the money out of money that should be going in people's pockets, invests it into companies in Israel. People in Israel are doing really well. And that is essentially a big problem that we're seeing in the government as a whole. And the reason why the new mayor was he's essentially guaranteed to win now because he won the Democratic primary. The winner of the Democratic primary in New York almost always wins. The reason why he won the Democratic primary was because he did not support Israel. And it goes to show how upset and how tired people are with this entire supporting Israel blindly. Conservatives. I've seen conservatives very unhappy. Oh my God, he wants to nationalize. He wants to make groceries this. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. He is no different than any other mayoral candidate in any other major U.S. city. Every single city in the United States, LA, Miami, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago, every single mayor of all of these cities are left-wing socialists. He is no different than any other left-wing socialist. The only difference is that he doesn't support Israel. That's why every single conservative influencer is speaking out against him. Oh, 20 years ago, the U.S. was attacked by Muslims. Now we have a Muslim socialist. What? He's no different than any other socialist. The only difference is that he does not support Israel. The money that these conservatives are getting is from AIPAC. They have to support Israel. So anyone that speaks against Israel, they have to speak out against them. Very simple. It's just money. So if you follow the money, Israel has the United States using Israel is important in the Middle East. A lot of Trump's cabinet is conservative Zionists. They want intervention in the Middle East. Vance, however, the vice president, is not necessarily as neocon as the rest of the I guess we'll talk about that another day. But I don't think Vance is as much. Vance wants to more prioritize the United States compared to being more imperial, right? But definitely in 2027, 2028, when he starts to run, he's also going to be running as someone that supports Palestine a bit, something. I'm pretty sure. Because there has to be opposite stances to garner the support. So that's what I think is going to end up happening. So to wrap it up, right? The United States attacked Fordo. If Iran knew that the United States was going to be targeting Fordo, if Iran knew that the United States put B-2 bombers to the south of Yemen in the Indian Ocean at Diego Garcia, within firing range of Iran, you don't think that once Israel and Iran started to clash and started to attack each other, you don't think that Iran would have moved all of the nuclear items out of Fordo months ago, maybe weeks ago, years ago, if they knew that Fordo was now a target? Don't you think Iran would have been like, okay, yeah, keep looking at Fordo. Yeah, oh, Fordo? Oh, yeah, that's our only nuclear facility. Yeah, oh, Fordo. But regardless, right, from an Iranian perspective, I would assume that they've already moved everything. From an Iranian perspective, though, that's more of a conspiracy theory. But for a fact, once Israel attacked Iran, you better 100% guarantee that Iran started to enrich the uranium to try to create a nuclear weapon. 100% guaranteed. Now, Israel also knows this. The United States also knows this. The United States does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran wants to create a nuclear weapon so that it's a deterrent to any sort of attacks from any of the U.S. bases alongside the southern coast in Iraq, in Qatar, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, and Israel. So Iran wants to create a nuclear weapon as a deterrent. Israel wants to see Iran's regime changed. And the United States doesn't want Iran to have any nuclear weapons. So we've got a just triangle of BS going on right now. And the issue is that Iran almost guaranteed started to really push for a nuclear weapon. Israel really wanted the United States to partake and go into a regime change in Iran. A regime change in Iraq is not the same as a regime change in Iran. Iran is way more heavily equipped. It is way more united against what is going on than Iraq was. So a regime change in Iran is not something that is going to benefit anyone in terms of any sort of financial. It's not going to benefit anyone of the regular people. It's going to only benefit Israel, and it's only going to benefit the backers of the Zionist lobby in the United States. In the United States, the majority of people in America also know this. Iraq. What was the reason why we went to Iraq? WMDs. Did we ever find WMDs? No. Iran. There were no WMDs in Iran. What ended up for years, Obama made the best sort of enrichment plan that Iran ever had. France was in control of its plutonium. Russia was in control of its uranium, and they would be taken out of Iran, enriched in France and Russia, in those respective countries. Each of those countries were in control of Iran's nuclear plans, basically a nuclear enrichment program, and it was a great deal. Trump was basically using that exact same plan to reinstate Obama's plan for Iran because it was so perfect. Trump was trying to do the same thing. Iran was in talks with Trump to do this. Israel wasn't having it. So Israel attacked Iran preemptively when it was not warranted. While Iran was in peace talks with Trump, Israel attacked preemptively, no justification, complete act of war. Iran responded by completely, really hurting Tel Aviv and Haifa. Once that occurred too much, once the veil of Israeli dominance was starting to really uncover in the Middle East, the United States needed to drop bombs on Fordo because they were like, okay, guys, like, instead of us going in on the ground on Iran, we need to drop some B-2 bombers on your facility because Israel is getting really clapped at the moment. Because at the end of the day, it's a vested interest for the United States, for the West, to make sure that Israel looks very strong. As soon as Israel starts to look really weak, and as soon as the United States starts to look really weak, these Gulf countries might start uprising. You don't want to see these Gulf countries start to uprise. You don't want to see them have any sort of backbone. So that's why you have all of these leaders that are somewhat maybe even autistic or inbred. You have these people as leaders of these countries. You just get them like, oh, here's like, you are in control of your country, but you have to give us a big percentage of the oil from your country, and in response, you guys get our protection. So here's some military bases in the region, and now, we're all happy. That's currently what's going on in the Middle East. And Iran, this is not the end for Iran. So what we saw was they closed the Strait of Hormuz. Closing the Strait of Hormuz, I thought would cause a spike in oil. What I didn't realize, because the last time the Middle East had a war, we didn't control as much oil in the Middle East. Once we got into a war with Iraq, right? So back in 2003, gas shot up to $6-7 a barrel, $6-7 a gallon at the pumps. I thought it would pump. I thought it would be even higher. But what I didn't realize is that the United States now has a lot of oil. It basically owns the oil in this entire region, right? So just one call, a lot of these countries are going to adjust the prices of oil to maintain balance. So once the Strait of Hormuz was closed, it didn't have that much of an effect, because the United States could easily just inject oil into the supply, playing around with the oil prices, and it would just make sure that things would stabilize. That's what they ended up doing. That's something that I overlooked. And unfortunately, I knew that Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz. That one thing where the United States was in control of all of this oil, I overlooked, unfortunately. And the other thing is that China gets a lot of oil from Iran at a discount, because Iran produces a lot of oil, by the way. And China gets a lot of its oil from Iran. So closing the Strait of Hormuz would not only hurt the Gulf countries, it would not only hurt the United States, it would also hurt China, which is another ally that Iran has. It's not a direct ally, but all of this is a war that's going on. Russia and Iran are somewhat allies, right? Russia had a base in Syria. Russia supported what Syria and Assad was doing in Syria. So once Syria, that's why Assad found asylum in Russia. Does that make sense? So it would hurt Russia and China if Iran continued to close the Strait of Hormuz. And even if it is closed, even if they close it in the future, for however long it's closed, the price of oil is not going to get as affected unless oil fields and everything in the Middle East start getting attacked. The Strait of Hormuz is not enough for this for oil prices to really skyrocket. Now in the future, what we're seeing is talks that the United States thinks the enrichment program in Iran is not yet done. They think that Iran is still enriching. They still think that Iran has other nuclear sites, has other nuclear enrichment facilities in the country, which makes complete sense, right? But Trump and his cabinet was saying that it is done. It is not going to occur. Fordo was destroyed. But logically thinking, that's almost impossible. Unless Iran is completely dumb, that is impossible. And Israel knows that. So that's why once the ceasefire was basically starting, right? Israel attacked Iran after the ceasefire was starting, right? Israel attacked Iran harder than it's ever attacked. And it tried to target Ayatollah Khomeini, because Israel wants a regime change in Iran. They want to make sure that the leadership in Iran is more Western-centric, supports Israel, and supports Western ideals. The attack in Israel caused unity in Iran. And as long as the Ayatollah is alive, it becomes very, very difficult for Israel. And it's almost a guarantee that Iran is basically it's looking to continue its nuclear enrichment program. But Trump does not, at this point, want to create a war. It seems like he doesn't want to create a war. He wants to retain some sort of MAGA, the MAGA base. He wants to make sure that MAGA is happy and supported and everything. Because going into war with Iran would completely change everything that he said. He was running as a person that would stop war. And what ends up happening? Israel attacked Iran, and now the United States has to follow and has to be pulled into an Israeli war. So that is something that he does not want to essentially happen. So he had to also save face. He's going to say that Iran's nuclear facilities are destroyed, when everyone in the world with a logical mind is going to assume that Iran moved their things out of Fordo, has other facilities around the country that are not known, and they're going to be creating some sort of a nuke. That's my thought process. It's going to be really, really interesting to see the next steps in this war. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what this new, if the mayor gets elected in New York, what his views and everything are going to be. Let's see how, what goes on. But he is very, very anti-Israel. Israel, about 20-25% of the New York City is Jewish. But just the vast majority of Democrats in New York are tired of the blatant support of Israel. They're very upset with what's going on in Gaza. And you can't argue with that. So you can't overlook that. There's right and wrong. What Israel is doing in Gaza is completely wrong. And there's repercussions. All of these Zionists that supported Israel during the campaign just looked like idiots. It looked like idiots. Like, oh, the first place I'm going to go is Israel. Focus on New York. What are you doing in Israel? Well, what does Israel have to do with New York? What does traveling to Israel have to do with the United States? It's because Israel basically manages all of these politicians. And it's very sad to see. As a Pakistani American, it's very, very sad to see that Israel, an outside country, has that much influence in the United States, where it basically does the bidding of Israel in the region, and there's no benefit to citizens of the United States. So it's very interesting. If I was a white Christian person, right? So, for example, I was talking about how Arabs and everything would not have any self-respect, right? The leaders of these countries didn't have any self-respect. If I was a white Christian person, I would be upset. I would be like, damn, like, why are all of these people being controlled by someone that thinks that Jesus Christ is in hell, right? Does that make sense? So that's what I think is currently, that's what I think a big problem. I mean, how are you? I don't think these guys are even that religious, so maybe that's another thing, but they could follow the Schofield Bible. Who knows? Schofield, I'm not even sure, but it's just interesting. It's an interesting state of affairs in our country currently. We are being internally colonized by Israel, and the Middle East is colonized by the United States and Israel as well as Africa. So Iran is the only threat to Israel in the area, and that's why Israel really, really wants to force Iran into a war. That's why they attacked Iran very, very heavily with very, very heavily on the day of the ceasefire to try to cause Iran to retaliate back. Iran didn't retaliate. Instead, they attacked a base in Qatar. They let the United States know that they were going to attack ahead of time. Iran fired 12 missiles, the same amount of missiles that the United States fired in Iran. They let them know, hey, we're going to attack Qatar, this base here. Evacuate. The United States evacuated. Problem diffused. This is almost going to guarantee, regardless, another attack into Iran. Right now, we're trying to create some sort of a Iranian. We're trying to create some sort of a deal with Iran, where we're giving them money and we're trying to, just soften the blow a little bit. But obviously, this doesn't make Israel happy, and Israel has followed with multiple blatant acts of war. Israel destroyed multiple Iranian. Israel attacked Iranian bases. Where the embassies are. It attacked Iranian embassies. Act of war. It attacked. It made Trump attack the leaders of Iran. Another act of war. And then the first attack that they created 2 weeks ago, it targeted all of the leadership. They attacked nuclear scientists, generals. They tried to even kill Khomeini. So Iran almost guaranteed is going to start building a nuclear weapon. The United States, it's going to end up attacking Iran again. This is going to end up being a conflict, whether it's this year, whether it's 5 years. There's no way that Iran is not creating a nuclear weapon. And unfortunately, this is going to turn out to some sort of an attack on Iran. We're going to get pulled into a multi-year war, and it's going to try to target a regime change. They don't want Ayatollah Khomeini in charge of Iran because Iran has some sort of self-respect, unlike a lot of these other Arab countries. They need someone who is going to be a puppet to the United States, and that's what they are going to end up doing. And it's unfortunate. So let's see what the next steps are and how that affects the overall market, what the next steps are for the Middle East conflict. This was very fun. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys bright and early. I'm going to be giving you guys updates every day. All right, have a good one. Take care.